I don't do this often, but I had to do it. This is a reshoot of the large form being broken up to multiple tabs. I think we have an easier way. Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about how do you take a large form and break it up into tabs so that way you can tab through it using PowerApps. And what we're going to do in this video, if you take a look at my screen here, I will show, as you saw in the previous video, we broke this up into different views. So now if you go into the new, you got the field layout, hit cancel here. If I go ahead and try to edit one of these items, you see I add additional fields for the edit form. And then if I go and view one of these items, there's something totally different. We have the image URL that we grab by inputting or editing, and then we actually explode it out to show the actual image. But now the problem is, or some of the scenarios we may run into, is that we have a form and it has a lot of fields that do not fit on a single view, and you kind of want to break those up into a tabular view or format. So how do you do that in PowerApps? Now, this is a retake of this video. After working with this for a few weeks and doing a few little lab experiments in different scenarios, I found that there is actually a much easier way to do this using the tabs. And we're going to walk through this process again. There is probably 80% similarity, but the other 20% is really going to help out from a maintenance and ongoing process. So let's walk through the process from scratch. So here, here's the scenario. The scenario is for the view, this is fine. For the new, we want to capture minimal information. But for the edit, for existing items, they're going to go through a process. And then that user who's coming here to modify the items, we want to highlight several other fields that we do not use on the new and we do not display on the view. Now, in order to do that, now that I have these broken up to 3 different forms or screens, I can now go into my edit mode or edit screen and then add in the additional items, which I can do simply by selecting the form element, clicking on select, and then I have these additional site columns here. So I have a status that I'm going to select here, and then I have attachments. Now, if you ever work with attachments in PowerApps, you know that attachments takes up a lot of real estate. There's one is so not so much the attachment button, the button that you click to actually upload the attachment, but the real estate they set aside to display all the attachments that are uploaded. So that's a great candidate to move to a separate tab, just so we can free up space and real estate. And you know, our whole goal is to minimize this double scroll, right? You don't want to scroll within your form because things just kind of get wacky when your end user is working with this form. So in this edit mode, all we want to do for one tab, we want to display the title, the photo URL, and then the cost and location. We want to put description on this on the separate tab, and we want to put the attachments again where I can't really see it here because it takes up so much real estate. We want to put the attachments on this own separate tab, all in the edit screen. So let's go ahead and get busy and then knock this out. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and bring in a button, and we're going to need 3 of these, but I'm going to bring in one, customize it to where I need it to be. And then I'm going to just go ahead and duplicate that button to get the other 3. So let me just zoom in here. And by default, these buttons are going to have square edges or sharp edges, right? So we just change the size here. And we want to change the text of the button to, for this one, we just call it basics, maybe. Basic. There's probably a different tab name that I can give it. But let's just call this one basic. So I'll select the text property. Give it basics, and we want this to float towards the top, right? Because what we're going to do, we're going to truncate the bottom of this button. So let's change the vertical alignment on this one to from the default middle to top. So let's just change that to top, right? All right, so that's going to push it up to the top, and by default, if this guy is selected, we're going to have a darker blue. So I like kind of like this deep navy bluish. And yeah, and let's get rid of those rounded corners. So get rid of the rounded corners, use the border radius, and I'm going to put like a value of 10 for the border radius, and that's going to give me a nice round edge there. All right, so we still look like a button, but we want to make this look more like a tab, right? So in order to do that, what we have to do is hide the bottom piece of this button. So I'm going to just slide up my form control just to the bottom of it. And that's what we mentioned before when we went through the tour or the orientation of PowerApps Studio on how these different elements, once you get to a certain extent of the same level, you can actually stack and layer these. And we're going to take advantage of that. So we're just going to layer this form control on top of the bottom, let's say third percent of that button, right? And right now it's transparent. So what we want to do, first thing we have to do is hide this button. So or push it towards the back. So just get your ellipse here on the left and hit reorder and just send it to back. And that's going to put it behind my form. And now my background on my form is transparent. So we want to do a solid color. We're already dealing with white, so let's just do a solid white, and that's going to kind of give us our tab look, our illustration, optical illusion that we're looking for, right? So that's, if you zoom out a little bit, I'm going to have 130%. So if I zoom out, yeah, that kind of looks like a tab now, right? All right, so now we have this down. I'm going to just do a Control-C, Control-V. That's going to duplicate that button for me. And that's number 2. Then I'll put my third one in for number 3. And really just eyeballing the spacing here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so let me go ahead and select these guys, push them to the back. And you can select more than one when you're dealing with this control. Just send it back, and that's going to throw them, again, behind that form control. And I only want to highlight one of these tabs one at a time, right? So if the tab is not selected, meaning that if that tab is not active, I'm going to use like this, this second shade gray, right? So I'm going to do that for both of these guys. That's going to be my second shade gray. All right, so voila, just like that, we kind of have like a tab look for the different pieces. So let's go ahead and name our tab number 2. And again, this is just text, and this can be whatever you want it to be. And I'm going to call this description, right? And then for tab number 3, I'm going to call this one attachments. And basically the user just click on these tabs, fill out the pieces that they need, and we're off to the races, right? All right, so that's that. And of course, you can sit here and play around with it. You can drop the font size and make it a little bit more elegant and so on and so forth. Maybe stretch them out and all this other good stuff. So I'll leave that up to you, because that's really starting to get subjective and, all about preference. So now we have our tabs. The next step we need to do is what we're going to do is, so the basics of this strategy is to, when you click on the tab, that's a click event, right? And you're going to set a variable, and based on the variable that's set to true, meaning that to show or hide it, it's going to go in turn and set each one of these form elements visibility property based on what needs to be shown, what needs to be displayed, right? So a couple of things I want to do a clean up before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the how-to is that I want to kind of remove some of these form elements and re-add them, because I want the default values to pop up. So if I just go into my form control, hit select, and I want to deselect location and cost, and then just re-add them, because I want my location and cost to take up the full width. I could have easily, no, I can't find them. I could have easily used the guiding, the bounding guides, right, and stretch those and manipulated those to make that stretch across. But I just want to ensure that I have the default value for those data cards or form elements, okay? All right, so I have that selected, and as you can see with this double scroll, I still have everything that's needed, and that's fine. All right, so now let's go ahead and wire up our buttons. I recommend wiring up the buttons first. Now this is where I get into that 20% where the deviation, where when I shot this video initially, I kind of did something where I had a variable, and I was using the not, like the explanation in the variable name, to kind of do like the opposite value and toggle that way. But that only was good for 2 tabs, and what I wanted to display here is a reusable pattern that you can do for many different tabs. So if you wanted to stretch this form out wide and go with like 5 or 6 tabs at the top, this pattern will support that, whereas the pattern I showed in the previous video will only support 2 tabs, right? Because it was a toggle, like an on-off. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and select our basic button, hit on select property, which is like our click event, right? And then for here, we're just going to make up a variable. So we're going to say set, and our made up variable name, basic or show basic, and then really that show to true, and that show basic is coming off the name of my tab, and they don't have to match, right? You can say show tab 1, tab 2, show tab 1, show tab 2, show tab 3, whatever you want to do from a variable or formula perspective. It's really up to you. They don't have to coincide with your tab names, which is probably smart, right? Because if you run this as a business user and they say, oh, that tab should be named instead of description details, right? And now you have a show description to represent the detail tab, and things kind of get out of whack. So if you keep it generic, that's probably a better way to go. And actually, now that I talked myself into that, let's do that. So show tab 1. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to do show tab 1 is true when the basic or the first tab is selected. And now I'm going to copy this and paste this 3 times for all my other tabs. So it's going to be show tab 1. That should be false, right? And show tab 3 should be false as well. And then get rid of this trailing semicolon, right? Because you only want the semicolons to be the delimited character, not the end, or else it screams at you. And really, that's it. So when I click the first button, it's going to say show tab 1 is true. Show tab 2 and 3 are false, right? So I'll just copy this, go to my tab 2, to the on select. And this is so much easier. I tried this in many different scenarios and it works perfectly. So now that I go into my description tab, I'm going to do show tab 1 is false. And then 2 will be true and 3 will be false. Right? You can copy this again. I already had it copied. And then do the same thing for my third tab. Paste this in. And this should be false, which is it. 2 is false. And then the third one is true, right? Now I can hold down the Alt key and then click on these guys, and then it's actually setting those variables in the end. I'm not seeing a change because I don't have anything listening to those variables or leveraging those variables to manipulate those data cards. Now let's do that. So now on the basic tab, this is tab 1. So for tab 1, I want the title, photo, and cost and location to display, right? So I would select those respectively. Now what I'm gonna hold down the control key, hold down the Alt key and click on basics, tab 1, and then I'm gonna select my data card. And the reason why I selected, I hold down the Alt key and select that button because I wanted to set tab 1 variable to true and all the other ones default. So as I'm setting these, the ones that I don't set, or if I change the variable, those will disappear if they're not for tab 1, right? So for title, I just go to the visibility property, visible. And you want to select the data card. Here you see I have the field selected, which is a child of the data card. You want the data card itself because the data card will propagate the visible property down to every field that's bound within it. So okay, so now now that we have the data card selected, let's select visible and just set that to show tab 1, right? And I'm going to copy that. And now if I go to photo, same deal, visible, show tab 1, right? Now if I go to the description, that's going to be show tab 2. So I go visible, and I'm going to paste in show tab 1, but change the number to 2, all right? And you notice as soon as I did that, it disappeared because I did that Alt click for tab 1 to set all the variables to their proper value when that's selected. Okay, so status, that should be show tab 1. I was kind of confused there, so I had to deselect and reselect. So this is show tab 1. Attachment is going to be show tab 3 because I want that to appear on the third tab. And location, show tab 1, and cost, show tab 1. All right, and that's it. So I'm at the end of the list. Now because I'm not trying to display all those fields in one single view or screen or visible property, whatever you want to call it, I got rid of my scroll bar and I have enough real estate to show the number of fields for that tab. So now if I hold down the Alt key and hit on description, now you see that the description, all the other ones that are not set to show tab 2 are disappeared because it's set to false, right? So let me just select this guy, give it more real estate. And this is the data card I'm selecting. And the one thing to keep in mind, I'm only dealing with one form control, right? So if I select a tab and adjust that form control, not necessarily the fields inside of it or the data card, but if I manipulate the form, that affects all the tabs, right? Because again, all we're doing is an optical illusion. We're saying, hey, all these guys are actually in the background, but when you select this tab, I'm only going to display these. When you select the other tab, I'm only going to display this. And when you select the third tab, I'm only going to display this. And that's what we're doing, right? So this is one form. All these fields are embedded in that form, but I'm doing the optical illusion trick of hiding and showing based on what the user's clicking on, and it gives them a sense that they're actually going to a different screen or a different view, when in actuality we're on the same view. We're just hiding and showing different things at different times. All right, so now I'm on. I actually want to stretch this description data card all the way down within my field and really give it all the real estate that it has, right? It has plenty of real estate. So now I'm going to hold down the Alt key, hit the attachment data card, and that one has plenty of real estate. And then I go back and just confirm everything else, and these guys are still looking good. I have extra white space at the bottom here, but that's fine because I have to account for different scenarios with that one single form control. And in the end, that's it. Now, what we want to do, as you notice, as I click on these guys, they're not being highlighted, so we have to fix that. And that's with the field property. So if you go to the field property, the first thing you want to do is capture which one of these colors are going to be your dark color or highlighted color. And that's going to be this guy here, right? So let me just go ahead into Notepad. These are my little cheat sheets. And here I'm going to just say dark, so I know what that one is. And then the second color I'm going to go ahead and paste in. I'm going to select that as light, right? So I got my dark color, and then I select on this button, which is displaying my light color. Go to its field property so I can get the RGB value. Let's see, where's the field? They're in alphabetical order. RGBA. All right. Go into my trusty Notepad, paste that in. So now I'm all set, right? Now, so I got my dark color, I got my light color, and now what I'm going to do is for this field property, now I have the basic one selected, and they all going to follow the same pattern. So for the field property, what I'm going to say, if show tab 1, which means that this is active. So if show tab 1, then display the dark color, right? Else, oops, let me open this up, give me some typing room. Uh-oh. Look like I just copied a space. Hold on. Control C, Control V. Alright, so if this is true, show the dark color, else show the light color. Easy as pie, right? And I put my ending parenthesis. And then I copy this. So that's gonna be my basic button. I fat fingered something. Oh, I screwed something up. Let me do Control Z to get out. Okay. And this is my, yeah, screw something up. All right, let's try this again. So if show tab 1 is true, go ahead and drop in the dark color. Else, drop in the light color. All right, so now we can test this out. If I hold down the Alt key, hit description, it's light. Hold down the Alt key, hit basic, it's dark. All right, so now I need to replicate that same logic for the other ones, but you know, we need to change one thing and then we're all set. So let me hit the description, hit the field, and this one should only do that if show tab 2, and then for attachments, hit the field, and this should only do it if it's show tab 3. Right, so now let me test this out. Alt key description, good. Alt key attachment, good. Alt key basic, good. All right, let's go ahead and push this up, see where we're looking. Uh-oh, what's the red dot? What's this? It's complaining about something. Edit screen, expected operand, formula edit. Oh. What is this for? Oh, this is for the edit screen. Oh, this is where I got that gray, right? Okay, so let's do this. This should be, let's just erase this and then select out of it, and it's going to go to its default value, right? I was editing the wrong control, and that's the thing. That's what any of this stuff. When you're going ahead and changing these properties, especially when you're clicking around, you have to make sure that you have the right thing selected, or you can inadvertently change the wrong thing, and that's what happened here. So, all right, so we're good. So let's go ahead and save this up. Let's go ahead and push this up, and we're going to test it out. And we're going to run into a problem, and I'll show you in a second how to solve the problem. But for the most part, we're wired up, and this thing is going to work as expected with one slight issue, but we have a problem. We know how to solve it, so it's not going to be a big deal. All right, so now I go into this equipment 2 form, and don't forget to do your refreshes, right? So it's equipment 2. As soon as I land here, I want to do a refresh. As soon as I open up the form, I want to do another refresh. And sometimes you have to do that for all 3 views. So if it's new, you have to refresh to make sure you're getting the latest and greatest. But that's the only thing. Or, just remember your refreshes, or else you'll be pulling your hair out trying to find a red herring that's something that's you think it looks like a problem, but really it's not a problem. You're just not watching or getting the latest and greatest. All right, so let me go ahead and select this guy. This is going to go ahead and pop up any day now. Sometimes I get into these odd states to where things are just not responding the way they should. You know what I mean? Okay, here we go. All right, so there was no change here. All of our changes are to the edit mode, right? So now if I hit edit on this guy, my tabs are popping up, and we should run into our issue, right? So my tab is popping up, and they're all grayed out. That means that nothing is selected. So when this thing initially loads, it doesn't know if tab 1 is true or tab 3. So they're actually null, which is neither true or false, right? And the visible property doesn't know how to deal with that. But as soon as you select it, it's like, oh, it kicks in, the logic kicks in, everything gets set, and everything works as expected, right? Awesome. Okay, so how do we solve that initial load piece? So to solve the initial load piece, you have to do it on the initial load. So let's go to our trusty SharePoint integration control, right? And then on edit, this is where we need to set our variables, right? This is where we need to set our initial values. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to just append these functions onto the end of what's already there. And I'm going to just repeat what we had before. So set show tab 1 to true, and we're going to default to tab 1, right? So if we default to tab 1, that means show tab 2 and show tab 3 should be set to what? You got it, false, right? Because we want them off, right? And that's going to be 3. This is going to be 2, and we get rid of our closing parenthesis, right? That's it. That's it. Now notice, now here's a couple of things so you should be aware of. I'm doing this on edit because all my changes as far as like my tab pattern is on edit. If you do the same tab pattern for view and for new, you just go and do the exact same thing. You just copy everything that we have here, go to your new event, and then paste in that same series of variables initial values, right? So, and the same for on view, you'll go in and set it in. So if I was doing tasks for all 3 of those different looks, right, the view, edit, and new, I would have to paste that in 3 times. But because I'm only doing that for edit, I only have to do the edit event there. All right. So now if I go back, save this up, push this up to the top, I should be golden. and I should be good to go. Alright, so now let me push this out, hit refresh, and go to my initial value. Here's my view. It seems like things run a lot slower when I'm recording my screen. Things are normally not this slow. And then if I go to edit, and then here we go. And you notice I wasn't blank. My initial value kicked in. I'm good to go. So now if I click onto another one, click on edit, and that's it. So that's how you break up a large form to multiple tabs. Again, and that's a pattern that you can do many tabs. And, you know, I reshot this because it's just one of those things that when you start to work with a new tool and you learn different tips and tricks, really, I'm telling you the thing with all this new stuff, right? I mean, Teams and Flow and apps and the new modern SharePoint and all this other good stuff. All of this stuff, I mean, you're going to go one approach just to kind of, because you're bumping around, you don't know it throughout. Most importantly, it haven't went through a support cycle, right? Once it goes through a support cycle, then that's when you go and refine and you retweak, and because you learn more, actually new capabilities are released and so on and so forth. So sometimes your approach is just a little bit different. The way we're developing these apps, these custom forms now in PowerApps, now in 2018 may be a lot different in 2020. Right, same tools, same in the cloud, and all this other good stuff. Because, you know, we're just going to get smart. Everyone's going to get smarter. Microsoft, the engineers are going to get smarter. We as consultants or users or architects, developers, we're going to get smarter. It's just in the end of the day, is to do it faster and easier and kind of make it as brain dead as possible. But, you know, my approach is always to find that most elegant pattern, right, and supportable maintenance free or maintenance capable pattern, in addition to just cranking it out and getting out the door. Because some of these solutions, because, you know, it's just early. I mean, PowerApps is probably what, 2 years old now, if that. It's early, and we're just going to learn a lot, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to figure out things are not the best way to do it as we did 2 years ago compared to now and 2 years from now. All right, so that's it. And again, this is a retake of the previous video. The old one will be out there somewhere. Just look under my uploaded videos on YouTube and you'll find it. But yeah, this is I like this pattern a lot, and it's simple, it's quick, and it is scalable, which is the key. All right, take care. I'll see you in the comment section and catch you in the next video.